And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the Connected for Real podcast. I am Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman, and I am a marriage coach for women in business. That is the intersection where your business is pulling you on one side and your marriage is pulling you on the other, and you are stuck in the middle being like, I'm not sure what to choose. So we're talking about not having to choose and making sure that you are balanced and that you're creating alignment and that God is at the core so that everything can work so beautifully together. And today with me is Estee Cohen. And we've been friends for a while because you're a graphic designer and I used to be in that field. So we were friends from like way back when, and I would send you a bunch of work and, people who I didn't want to work with and so on and so forth. So this is a really fun opportunity to, bring you to the light and really tell people what you're all about. So this is a great time for you to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Estee Cohen. I help solopreneurs and small businesses. For people who don't know what a solopreneur is, it's what people do nowadays when they start their own business by themselves and they're doing everything by themselves. So I help them attract, elevate, and thrive in their business. Okay. Meaning like I use strategy and identity and branding and like user-friendly websites and marketing materials like logos, business cards, brochures, things like that, so that people can connect and like have consistency in their business. So in short, actually helping people show up pretty in their business so they can make more money.
Nice. And it's not just pretty, because when you have pretty stuff, it shows up as professional. So
exactly. It makes people have confidence in what they believe in and helps them center to figure out what they're trying to say. Like,
yeah.
To think about it, to like assess, to ask the right questions so that they can bring the essence of what they're trying to do in their business, like to what people can see and experience.
Yeah, I love that. You guys know I used to be a graphic designer and I went to Pratt Institute. We had one teacher who said, in 0 words or less, tell me. And he would say something, right? And we would have to like express it in a visual form. And it is so powerful that sometimes just putting a color, just putting a shape, just putting a movement on page would express so much. And that's basically what you do. That was my favorite class. And it's also what you do, which is my favorite thing. So let's talk more about that. Go ahead.
There's a special skill in like spending time with people and understanding them and trying to psychologically like dissect what they're trying to do in their business by asking questions and getting to know them better. And then you have to be able to bridge the gap between who they believe they are and how they want to show up. That's a skill. Like there are a lot of graphic designers out there.
Right.
Some do it more successfully than others, but you have to love people. You have to really, really like people in order to try to understand them and get inside their heads a little bit and come back out again.
Right. It's more than getting into their heads. It's getting into their being, like into that. Yeah, I know, because we've talked about this. We're like, we're both very deep. You guys know about me, but Estee is really deep. And it's really fun to be able to have someone see you for what you really are and then be able to help you express that. And it's such an emotional moment where you actually feel like someone gets you.
It's a little bit of social work with design. Some people tell me I should have been a social worker. I'm like, yes, but that's not as fun as making things look pretty and helping people actually show up in their business so they make more money. Like that's, to me, more satisfying than social work. I can't speak for everybody, but to me, if Hashem gave me a skill, like I have an origin story.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 18 was the first time I ever took an art class. So I was never that kid who doodled in class, was a cute little artist. Okay. I took my first art class when I was 18 and I was sitting and I was drawing things with years of experience without any training, like actual exact images and drawings, because Hashem put a skill inside me that I didn't even know I had. So now I spend time helping people bridge the gap between, wait, I'm not creative, I don't know how to make that into something that they can see, because that's a very, very unique bridge.
That's amazing. So you just like found out you were an artist at 18 or whatever?
Yeah. I'm an artist now. Yeah.
Talk about an identity shift. Wow.
Yes.
How did that affect you?
Go ahead.
Yeah. How did that affect you in other ways?
I feel like my whole life has been constantly reassessing. This is like one of the first things I mentioned in like recharging your business is like connecting and like figuring out who you want to be and reassessing so that you become a different person. Like being able to go inward and ask the questions, the hard questions that most people don't want to ask, and then listen for the answer.
Right.
So you have to be able to do that for yourself in order to do that for others.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I can see now why all the work that I do resonates with you so well, because you're using the same it's the same spice is that same spice that we're talking about. The ability to really listen, the ability to really hone in on things that other people don't catch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When I hear your podcasts or your workshops, I've been to so many of them, it's like hearing an echo in my soul when I hear you talk. I'm like, oh, I know what that is. I
Oh,
recognize that. That's familiar to me. Like God talk is how I talk to myself. That's my consistent like mantra in my brain is like, how does God feel? How would God say about this? Am I connecting with the universe? Am I getting it right? Am I listening to the core? Am I getting to the essence? That's the stuff that goes on up there.
yeah. Yeah. It's been so fun to get your feedback. You've been following me for so long. I think you were like one of the first long time ago.
I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah. I think you showed up to like the first ever thing that I did, which was so fun. Um, and then throughout the years, just getting your feedback has been really great. So thank you for that, because you guys know that my love language is words of affirmation. So I really appreciate when people give me feedback. Like if you sit down right now and write me an email, even if it's just 2 words, like "Oh, I listened and I loved it," it will make my day. And I try not to be all dependent on that, but
Okay, so my primary love language is also words of affirmation, shockingly enough. There's actually a test online you can take if you're not quite sure what your love language is. And the first time I went to your marriage workshop, I didn't know it was your first one. And this is the key about branding. If you show up like you've been doing it forever, then people will believe you're doing it forever. And if you show up like you don't know what you're doing, then that will come across. And I didn't know it was your first. I just assumed you've been doing it for years and I just found you.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if you like first, but it was definitely in the beginning when I was, still it was but I think, we were talking about identity shift, and it's so interesting, but like I think that because of all the years of graphic design work, because I did 15 years and I did, package design, and that was my specialty, even though I did everything else too. But like that was my love, was designing packages, expressing to the outside what is on the inside. I'm still doing that, but in a different form. Um, so yeah, I I knew that I'm not new in this world. I just am shifting. So the pivot wasn't a newness, it was a new angle, and it gave me a lot of confidence. Um I remember, this is a total tangent, but I think somebody has to hear it, and that's why it's coming up. I remember my parents were talking to someone who was just becoming religious, and he said, "I don't know anything. I don't know what I'm looking for." He was wanting to get married, and he was like, "I don't know what I'm looking for. I need you guys to tell me what I need. I need you guys to tell me if this is good or not." And he was very newbie. And my parents look at him and say, "You are not brand new to the world. You have all these experiences. You have all of this life that you lived. And just because you've changed yourself to now do different things or become somebody else, that does not change you. That does not negate everything that you had until this point." And that was so powerful for me as a child to hear my parents say that. You are all the things that you've gone through plus your new shift. That creates magic if you can bring your old self with you along the way. And I think that's what you're talking about. It's that confidence. So yeah, by the way, we have a guest, live listener who who is saying that this is fascinating. So if
That's
you
my
are
husband.
Yeah, that is
Yes.
your husband.
Yes.
If you're listening live and you want to leave us a comment, you should know that we will see it live and we might even say hi. So hi.
Oh God. To be on a marriage podcast and my husband shows up, that's epic.
Epic, epic. Just so you know, I want to make a whole page of testimonials that come from the husbands and not from the wives themselves. Because I only work with wives, and the coolest thing comes up when the husbands are like, "Thank you for taking me off the hook. Thank you for getting me free to do my thing." And it's amazing. It affects them so much more. I mean, even though you're doing your work and you're showing up for yourself, and they end up getting so much out of it. So just a note there, note to self. Anyway, oh, look, this is so fun. Just because we had that one, now people are saying hi. So hello from Kiryat Malachi. This is fun. So you mentioned recharge in business, and I want to just bring it back because I didn't introduce it at the beginning, but I will right now because you're helping me stay focused. My podcast is built of 4 pillars. So there's God at the core, marriage and business working together, and then you are the 4th container. You have to take care of yourself, and you get to expand and contain all of the things that are in your life. And so my podcast is built like that, where there's 4 pillars, and every month we talk about one topic from 4 different angles. So this month the topic is recharge, and we're talking today specifically recharge and business. So how do you recharge your business? How do we really give it that boost that it needs to go in the right direction and fly forward? So let's get into that a little bit.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying, that you have to look at yourself and realize your inner thoughts, your inner focus, like drown out all the noise. The social media, what people believe you should be doing and what you should be thinking and how you should be showing up and what your prices should be, and reassess it from scratch. Okay, I ask people all the time, if you were going to make $1 million this year, what would you do? How would that change your life? What would your refocusing be? What would your essence be? How would you show up if you knew that in 365 days you're going to make $1 million loving doing what you're doing? What would that look like for you? For some reason, that always breaks the stereotypes and the boundaries in people's brains about what they're capable of doing. Because once you mention $1 million, they're already dreaming. If I'm never going to make that anyway, so I may as well dream without boundaries.
All right. I used to have a question, the $17 million question. It was based on Brooke Castillo because she was on the podcast with Claire Pelletro, the Get Paid podcast. It was a fascinating conversation because Claire says to her, "So what does one do with $17 million? And Brooke says, "Well, actually, we still cook our own food because we love cooking and we love sitting down to eat our home cooked meals. So there are things that don't change. And then, of course, there are things that do." So she starts talking about all these random things that she's doing with the money. But it hit me that there are things that we're already doing that we're not going to want to change. And those are actually the things that are the most fun to focus on because those are the things that are giving you the most joy.
The fuel that we use to live every minute of our lives. Yes.
Yeah.
So even if you have $1 million and even if you don't, you're still going to want balance in your life. You're still going to want to connect with the universe. You're still going to want to make decisions and choose things that make you feel good.
Right.
So that's the same thing in your business. Right?
Say more.
We can't do everything in a day. There's a minimum amount of time. I know you have this workshop on time. There's a minimum amount of time. So we end up weeding out the things that aren't as important as the most important things. We make time for the most important things. If you have $1 million or you don't, you still have to make time in 24 hours doing this. You still have to sleep. You still have to eat because otherwise you can't function. So no matter how much money you have, you still have to pay attention to what matters most.
I love that. Yeah. Rebecca Saltzman, she's organizer.
Yeah,
and she was on my podcast recently, but also when I did an in-person retreat, which by the way, I may be doing soon. So stay tuned. She was on my in-person retreat and she spoke about delegation. And she made us write down a list of things that only we can do. And it was fascinating because it suddenly made me realize that there's a lot of things that I do that I think only I can do, but totally someone else could do. And then there are things that always fall to the wayside because, like, oh, whatever, I'll get to it. But, like, only I can do that. And that's terrible. Like, nobody's doing it. It's never getting done because I am the only one. And I took a lot of responsibility to that day for the things that are in my control. And it was really great. It was so helpful because I delegated a lot after that.
That's one of the main questions I ask my clients because they need to find what they want to do in the world. I just met a lady today. I'm like, well, are you doing what you want to be doing? Are you doing what makes you unique and creative? Like, are you doing something that changes you and makes you feel good when you wake up in the morning every day? Like, are you doing it with the full purpose? Because that's the whole point. Like, why are we created in this universe in the first place? To use our unique skills.
Right. Well, really, to connect to God. And through the
To
unique
connect to God through that's, of course, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
I didn't even say it because it was like, of course.
It was a given. But it's an important point there. It is. It's really fascinating because we're talking about recharge. Women can be listening right now and they haven't started their business and are like, starting something up and they're thinking, oh, she's talking about helping someone really get to the bottom of it and helping, with the logo and with the branding and all this stuff. This is great. But I actually want you also to be listening if you're already in business and if you've already been doing things, because that's the power of a rebrand, right? And let's talk about that a little bit.
How did you know I was going to go there?
I'm reading your mind.
You're reading my mind. Okay. So when you recharge and rebrand yourself, if you do it right, it will feel like you're aligned with the universe. Like, it will give you renewed confidence to put on social media posts, to send people your email newsletters, or to send people your website link. If you feel the confidence that it represents you, like really, really represents you, you'll want to shout it to the world. Because if your purpose here is to change and help the world through God, then you're going to want to do that when you feel aligned with the universe, when your stuff is aligned with the universe.
Right. You keep saying universe and it's rubbing me the wrong way just because people always use it as like an instead of, like they say you believe in God or the universe. So they're like making it something different. And that's why it rubs me the wrong way. But I know that you're so aligned that it's like all the same. We have here a comment from Bryna Lee. And she says, hi from B'Chemish. I find that my priorities have shifted so that I prioritize my time and my energy more than in the past, and that I want to and have to allocate time and energy to my well-being. I'm so happy to hear that.
That's a big one. So that was another thing in recharging. We have to do self-care.
Yes.
We have to find support, like hanging out with people who support what we're doing. So to help us, like, the momentum to move forward. But it's also so important. Like, Brian has had to take breaks.
Right.
You can't, it's like, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think the way she said it also sounded like I was forced to, like I'm finding, that I have to shift because I have to change my priorities. Like, what if you get to, what if this is something that you initiate because you're like, hey, I want to refresh. I want to think this through. I want to actually make decisions from a place of I get to and not from the place of I have to. Mm-hmm. And those are the best ones because then you get to like have so much fun.
I was going to say, my son started playing the guitar. And as we know with music, it's the breaks between the music that make the music so powerful.
Oh, yes.
And yeah. So it's the same thing with creativity and business. Like, if Bryna doesn't take breaks, if Bryna doesn't recharge and take her naps or whatever she needed to do, yeah. If she doesn't do those things, then she can't come back on better and stronger and more creative. And that's the difference between working in your business and on your business, which I'm sure you've heard.
Yes. Yes. So Bryna says she did initiate, which I'm really proud and I'm really happy. I'm like sitting here going, yay! I'm so proud. I'm so like cheering you on. So that's very exciting. The breaks, but also the music itself. when it comes from the soul, when it comes with alignment, people are like, oh, I hate the feeling of feeling salesy. I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to get in people's faces. And like, what if you had something that was so you that it didn't have to feel anything? It just was like obvious. Like, oh, this is it. This is my website. This is my podcast. This is whatever.
I totally feel that way when I see your stuff. Like you're putting yourself out there with this workshop and that workshop and your website and all those things. There's no shame and there's no embarrassment with saying, I'm here to help people. Let me help you. Here, you can find me here. How else are people going to find you?
Yes. Oh my gosh. The comment section is blowing up. So I have to just keep bringing them up because they're so beautiful and delicious. I love you people. So this one is from Jewish Book Talks and it says, hello from Jerusalem. Big fan here. I find that the more clear I become about myself and my values as a person and as a business owner, I start to attract new clients that match those values. Yes. Yes. Thank you for saying that. That is exactly what I want to hear.
I was going to go there. Okay. So holistically, like you have to be aligned in your soul, in your heart, in your business. If you're doing something you don't like, if you're selling, like if you're collecting debts for people and you don't believe in it, right, then you wake up every morning, like not wanting to know why you want to live. Where's the charge? Where's the excitement? It's that. Why do I have to get up today?
Yeah. Yeah. And then we have here, Yakova, am I saying it right? Being self-employed, it's hard to take breaks because we're the only ones pushing our businesses. If we stop, nothing happens. Can you address that a little bit? Because I have so much to say, but I want to hear what you have to say about this.
Oh God. Okay. So I'm a firm believer in exercising. I exercise between 3 to 5 times a week, and it gives me the stamina and the energy to keep going. And that is not working. Going to the gym has nothing to do with work. But if I don't, for example, eat well and exercise, then I don't work as well. I'm a creative person. I'm creating all day long. I can't do that if I'm not on and I'm balanced.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. Like all of us, it's like do what feels good, because when you're in a good state, it's contagious.
Yes.
It is contagious. People say they listen to my podcast just to get in a good mood because I start every podcast with my hands up. I'm like, and we're live. And they're like, and we are alive. One of my clients said that. She's like, every time I hear you, I'm thinking and hearing we are alive. And it makes her so excited. And so be that for people. If you can be that, then do that. The other thing that came up for me is, when you think I am the only one pushing my business, then where's God in all of this?
You got it.
And it's heavy and it's exhausting. And then you get overwhelmed and you burn out and you get, ugh. And then you turn to God and say, what do you want from me?
I burned out. That's how I know what not to do. You got to crash and burn. When you realize, I have to eat healthy and I can't eat junk and I have to exercise. Otherwise my body hurts. And then if it hurts, I can't function and focus on my work on the computer, and I can't be creative. I'm in pain because I didn't exercise. So yeah, you got to learn from the hard times. But I also think that what you said with God, you need to surrender to the fact, this is amazing, that you're given the amount of money that you're given at the beginning of the year. And so taking breaks is what Hashem built into the system for you to exist. So if you're not taking your breaks, then you're not connecting with the universe.
Yes. Yes.
Just got the chills. It's like, he wants you to live. He doesn't just want you to work. And for me, usually that's family time when I'm taking a break. It's usually when I'm playing a board game with my kids. It's not thinking creatively. So yet again, I can come back and be creative.
Right. Right. It's letting them win.
Yeah. Gotta work on that.
I love that. I love that. So Bryna says she initiated it. And yes, it's me responding to my world and my circumstances. I love that. And I'm celebrating it because it's so powerful. We have here Chayla Rivka. So thank you for being here and listening. I'm so excited. This is like such a fun live conversation. So this one says, why don't you read it? Because I've been reading a lot.
Okay. One of the imperative factors in recharging is to make a cheshbon nefesh and replace not so great habits with fresh new habits that empower and transform our inner being and now and in and out interactions with the world.
Yes. Oh, here she says outward interaction.
Outward.
Correct. Yes. Say more about that.
I think it has to do with having the vulnerability to actually look inside and see what you don't like. We all have things about us, about each other, about us as individuals, not each other, but like looking at myself and seeing all the things I don't like about myself and saying, okay, so I can change them. If I'm not happy, if it's not working, then let's try something different. I constantly try new design tactics, new inner work. Like I'm constantly listening to podcasts and other workshops and things like that, because the only way to be different is to try to like stretch, to be a little bit different, to try new things.
Right. I love that. The only way to be different is to be yourself, because you can't be like anyone else.
Yeah.
And in order to be yourself, you got to stretch that authentic muscle. You got to really own your stuff. And that's hard. It's scary. So we're saying a lot of fancy big words out here, but like I really want to bring it down to what does it look like in real life when you're sitting there going, I don't like this about my business, or I don't like this about my life. What do we do next to be able to even just believe that there is a possibility to change it? Because most people in the world are walking around saying there's nothing to do about it.
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that, because I have a PDF on my website, EsteeDesigns.com, that's recharging your business, points out different things in the checklist about what you're not doing correct, and then gives you tips, a quick tip to how to adjust it or fix it. Okay, So if you're looking for that, you can go to EsteeDesigns.com, and there's a PDF down towards the bottom, and you can take the test and see for yourself. But it means, like, just to give you a taste, it means like going to your social media and redoing your bios. It means making sure that you show up on all your social media platforms the same, so you look like the same business and not three separate other people. Things like that.
I love that. You know, I love this comment too, and I'm going to put it up here because it's so powerful. Bryna says, it is the greatest blessing to be able to have parnasa, which is livelihood, resulting from work that we love and that is our passion. And I so much agree. It is a real blessing. And if this isn't you, and if you're not loving exactly what you do, and you're not, feeling it, and something is off, and there's like, work hard and push, and this like energy that you're not comfortable in, the first thing to do is pause. Like, I'm not saying stop. I'm saying pause. Like, even just 2 seconds, stop, take a deep breath, center yourself. Because if you're running, and the result of I need to fix it being run even more, is not going to actually fix anything. What do you think about that?
So one of the podcasts I listen to a lot, and anybody that knows me has heard me say this, I listen to the Mel Robbins podcast all the time. And she talks, she has these workshops, these free workshops you can download that talks about how to reassess your world. Is this working? Is this exercise routine working? Is your job working? Is your eating habit working? Are you taking care of yourself? She asks these questions because I think first we have to ask those questions. And like you said before, it's scary. It is very scary. But I actually think not asking the questions is scarier.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Say more about that.
Living in a false world where you have a hard time waking up in the morning, you're not excited about life, to me is a very scary way to live.
Yeah.
I think if you're not happy where you are, then first of all, grab a buddy and talk to them about why you're not happy. Ask those questions. You could take my PDF. You can check out the Mel Robbins podcast. I'm happy to speak with you personally. But asking the questions about, like, how could I be happier? Imagining that imaginary life we talked about with $1 million. if I had all the money in the world, what would I do differently? For some reason, that breaks those boundaries for people.
Right. I think
Um,
the first thing is hope. Is just realizing that, oh, I actually can, or possibly it's possible.
yes, that's why I think having a support network actually helps, because when you're falling and you talk to someone else, they're like, "Well, I always knew you were capable of that thing." Let's say someone wants to switch to a different. Let's say someone works in an office and all of a sudden they want to work in business coaching. So if it's my friend and she wants to talk to me about it, I'll be like, "Well, I always knew you were going to be a coach. The only person who didn't see it was you."
Right.
So sometimes talking to a friend who could be a sounding board really helps.
And don't talk to the people who are going to be like, "You what?" Because I remember when I was pivoting was right when my parents were done paying for my schooling. And my father was so disappointed that all these years, he paid for my graphic design degree just for me to turn around and say, like, never mind. And I had to explain to him that, like, just like he's told that guy, you're still the same person, you still have the same strengths, you still have the same skills. I still have all the skills, I still have all the experience, I still have everything I've learned, and I'm still using it just in a different way. And it was really hard for me to pivot while my parents were not seeing it. Like, they could not see where I was going. So it was very helpful for me to have the other people on in my life being like, yes, we see this, go, you're doing great.
Whoa, to anyone who wants to pivot, I would say exactly the same thing. I would say you're not losing anything. Like, all the skills you learn, how to be disciplined and do the work and to look at things from a fresh perspective in your design world and how to talk to people, how to communicate, like all those skills are people skills you can use in anything in this world. You just had training of the visual form, but you can also use those things in your business nowadays, how you create your website and how you do your social media content, all this. You didn't lose any of that stuff. You just take it into the next period of your life.
Yeah. Also, I mean, do you really think that I went to Pratt Institute just to learn skills about, like, how to use Photoshop? No, like, they taught us how to think and how to strategize and how to get creative. And they pushed us so hard because it was such a high level program that
Mhm.
I can't even sit here and describe to you all the things I'm still using that I learned, and of course, all of the experience I gained throughout the years. But, like, just from the schooling, I did not lose a penny. Don't worry. I'm very, very grateful that I went there. It was like a very good experience.
So I also went to school and studied art studio, which I
Mm,
was like, okay, now I got a degree. What do I do with it? Nothing, because being in the art world is very demanding and very difficult. So I decided to pivot to graphic design. But to anyone who's starting to pivot in life, I would say you're not starting over. This goes with the
right.
imposter syndrome. Like, you're not
Mm,
starting over. You're just taking all the skills and you're putting a new envelope on it. I told my
right.
friend who wants to pivot into marketing, I'm like, okay, so use all the skills you're already using in marketing, but call it something. Call it the CEO of marketing or something like that. Call it something and then brand yourself. Now you're the thing you always were for everybody else as an employee. Except
Right.
now you're doing
Exactly.
it for yourself. So own it. Nothing's changed except no one's sitting on top of you.
Yes. Yes. So it's so fun to talk about recharging because it's like, stopping, putting your phone to charge, recharging,
Yeah.
taking your
Yeah.
phone back out, continuing to do the thing. So, does your phone suddenly become a different phone just because it's been recharged? Right? No,
You got it.
nothing changed. It just has more juice. So, can you pause for a second, recharge, and continue? So we could talk about it from, like, a recharge in you, which is next week, which you'll be happy to hear. Or we could talk about it from the business perspective of, no matter how you pivot or no matter how you brand or no matter what you do next in your business, it is not a restart, it is a refresh, it's a recharge. And if you can really bring all of yourself into it, you're just going to have more juice, more fuel, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm. I can't say what every individual person's purpose in this world is, but I do believe that if we go inward enough to ask the question, that individual person will know the answer if they
Yeah.
actually took time to ask.
Yeah. I
It's
love this. I love this coaching thing where you say to your coach, I don't know. And the coach says, and what if you did know? And it's such a good question because a lot of times my go to thing is like, I really don't know. And just being asked again, like, what if you did know? Oh, maybe I would think about it again differently, right? Like, I'm a creative person. I could think of what if I did know. It's a great question to ask.
I don't know if you ever go on this topic in your podcast, but AI really good at being a mirror. You'd be like, okay, if I didn't know what I was doing in my life and I took on the role of a branding expert and graphic designer for 10 plus years experience, what do you think I should go in life next? And it spits it right back at you. Well, I think you should start with email marketing, do some social media, and it's just amazing. So
You know what's
we have
interesting
humans.
though?
Yeah.
I find, yes, AI is definitely an interesting soundboard and it's very square. It's not creative. So it will tell me what, all the shoulds and coulds and supposed tos. And then I look at it and I'm like, okay, so now I know what not to do.
Exactly. If I was a square, that's what I would do. But since I'm not, I'm going to do the exact opposite. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I was using it to brainstorm on an email, and I'm like, help me really think, like, what is it that I do? Because I have to describe it to people. People. I have a 3-month program. It's a private coaching. It's called Balance for God's Sake because it's all about creating balance, and it's all for God. Um, and I said, help me describe what I do in the actual sessions because people want the results, but they don't want to work hard and they don't actually know what's happening in the session. And so help me describe. And it gave me the most like mediocre coaching type things that you do in a call. And like every normal person does this on their call. And I'm sitting there going, wow, I'm so cool. Like it made me realize how my sessions are so supercharged with
Mhm.
intuition and godliness and just poof. Like it blew my mind that AI could not even imagine what it is I actually do in a session.
So people think AI is going to take over the world. And what they don't realize is AI can't even put two hands with two pencils in it at the same time in a picture. Like it has its limitations. And as humans, we need to know AI's limitations so we can manipulate it and use it to the best ability that we can to make
Right.
us better. But it's a tool
Right. It
because
is
your
a tool.
uniqueness and your creativity is the most important thing. Right.
It is a tool. It is a tool and it's not going to take away our connection. Being authentic and being real and being yourself is never going to be replaced by AI.
I mean,
Somebody said like AI is tracking everything you do on Zoom so that it could create these like, AI looking sessions for people and then you'll be obsolete. I said, yeah, right. Like that's never going to happen because every single person I help is so unique that there's no way that they could figure that out. And B, my reactions and my intuition and my response is always so different because it's so unique to what you're saying and it's so exact to what you need to hear.
I do find as creatives though, it anchors me in a way that my creativity like makes me fly and be creative and be like unbound by things. So like for example, writing emails is something very grounded and very like you need outlines, you need to make sense. You need to actually be able to talk to people in a way that flows. And I feel like it grounds me like that.
You're like, you need. I'm like, you don't. I've sent emails that were one sentence, like, hey, just checking in on you. And like, who does
And
that to their group? Like, if you're one of my thousands of people listening, like, I really care. I want to hear. And I got so many responses from that one, by the way, because I really, really wrote it because it was me, no one else.
yeah, I think people appreciate authenticity. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. And consistency. And that's why, like, when you create social media content or your website, it should look like it's from the same person, not look like it's from 4 different people who hodgepodge it together. That's what makes people look more professional. Is so someone can actually take them and say, okay, this is how you align it and adjust it to each system.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes people need help. Like, it's not always something you can do by yourself. Like, for example, I have design audits where I meet with people for an hour and a half and audit what they're using and how it works for them. And are they doing it correctly? And then they can go do it themselves. In fact, doing it yourself is DIY is one of my favorite things to help people with, because I believe that if it comes from them, then it's more authentic. I mean, I'm happy to help too, but the point is, if they want to go at it, if they want to try it, because what they hate, like, good for them that they should want to do that, because I'm the same way. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. I still write all my emails because I love that tool of connection, being able to express myself and tell you for real what's up in my world, what's happening. And it helps me sharpen myself, the way I communicate. I also do my own podcasts. Surprise, surprise.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's not often that people are designers or like visual and also writers at the same time.
Right. And that's why it's so hard for me to be a square in the, newsletter department. I'm like, I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. I'm going to say it my way. And I hope you guys like my emails. And you know what? Most people are sending back, I love your emails. I actually read your emails more than I read anybody else's emails. Mm-hmm. Do you agree?
Yes, because you're showing up as you. You're not showing up as AI, like incarnated inside your emails. So that's why people like you in the first place, because you're authentic. If you weren't being you, then they would just listen to somebody else. They don't. They listen to you because they want to hear the truth, the reality, the essence of what's actually going on. That makes sense.
Yeah. I love that. So give us some practical ways of refreshing. How can we refresh our business in a way that feels really good?
Okay, so some of the things we spoke about are like reassessing what you're doing in your business. Is it working? Is the website working? Is the messaging working? Is your logo working? Do you feel good about it? And if you don't, doing something about it. Either DIY it yourself, do the research, or ask someone who's a professional for extra help, because not everybody can do it themselves. I love people who do their own websites and then come to me and say, okay, I tried. It looks great. I have 5 pages, but I need it to look pretty. Can you make it look pretty now that I did it? Okay, sure. I mean, I love using Canva. Do you use Canva?
Yeah.
Okay, so I love using.
You know what? Once Canva came out, all the other stuff was obsolete. Like I don't need to open up Photoshop and Illustrator and whatever if Canva is enough.
So, like with AI, Canva has its limitations also.
For sure.
And Adobe has its limitations in the reverse.
Very limited, but it's enough. It's good enough.
So sometimes I'll put things in Canva and then Adobe and then in WordPress, and I'll switch them around and then I'll adjust them. So I love people who work in Canva, because then people show me their designs and say, okay, why doesn't this look right? Can you look over these 10 designs and approve them for me? And then it's like a chick-chock rearranging, but they did it themselves.
Right. Yeah. I do that for my clients because they know I have the design background. So they show me something that they've designed or something, and I'll give them feedback. So, like sort of like an art director, like, okay, you have to make this bigger. You have to move this over. You have to make this white. You have to stop adding so many this and that, whatever, like really sharpen it.
Exactly. Sometimes it's not big things, because if you know how to use Canva correctly, you can take a workshop on it, how to use Canva correctly. There's ways to start with a template so that people can enable themselves. I love that. I'm not here to take over every design project in the world. I love that people want to and try to do it themselves. It's amazing.
Yeah. Also, because what you do is not the technical, it's not, oh, let me show you how to make it pretty. That's the result, but it's not actually what your superpower is. And so if I were to be feeling stuck about my branding or stuck about the way my business communicates visually, or just not sure how to express my authentic self, I would call you and be, Esty, can you help me? And really sit down and get to the bottom of it. And then from there, you can go on and, flow. Like, it's fine if you want to do it yourself. It's fine if you want me to help you. It's fine, whatever. But like, your superpower is not just the skill of design.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a surface is designed like it's not aligned right and the colors are wrong, but it could also be like, does this really represent what you're trying to say in your business?
Right.
Or is it blocking you from actually saying what you're trying to say? So one of my specialties is actually breaking down a design and telling you why it's not working.
I love that. I love that.
So
That's so fun.
And building it up again, because like it's one thing to say that's not working and I don't really know why, but it takes a skill to be like, it's not working because it's so fluorescently yellow that I can't even look at your ad. Like, okay, that happens. Like, why are you using such a bright color? That kind of thing. And that's why you like it, because it's going down to the core.
The school once sent an invitation to an event in the school, and oh my gosh, it was so hard to read. And I thought to myself, I don't need you to be designers, but like, you're a school. You want me to learn and read and understand what you want. Like, this is a basic skill. So it was very interesting. This is so fun. You just got a comment here. Brian Ali says, Esty did exactly that for me. For my cards, my website, and more recently helped me with my bookmark Chesed project since after October 7th. And that is so cool.
She came to me and was like, okay, this is what I got. Why isn't it working? So, yeah.
This is amazing.
Sometimes just ask, being able, like if the school had someone to ask, they would have sent it to me and I would have told them. But they don't always know who to ask, because people need a bridge between where they're holding and an actual decent design. And there isn't always a bridge available.
Right. And especially, I mean, school is school, but if you're a business and you're actually trying to get, clients and money and all this, businessy thing, this is also an investment in yourself. It's makes sense because there is a return on investment.
So having like proper copy on your website, for example, which you spend so much money on, but doesn't actually make any sense. Like Donald Miller, who writes the Story Brand, he says like you should have 10 sentences on your homepage. And most people don't. Most people invest all their time in the words. No one spends time reading it. It doesn't really look visually attractive. So having just someone come in for like 4 hours, like me, and just like editing your homepage so that it looks attractive.
Right.
It doesn't have to be so complicated. It doesn't have to be so expensive. It's the focus. People don't know what to focus on.
Oof. Focus is a great word right here in this conversation, because at the end of the day, we're talking about you have, 24 hours, and we're trying to figure out what to focus on, and the things that you focus on will grow. So make sure you're focusing on the right things. In design, we have focus where, where will your eye go, and how will the flow of the page, the flow of the flyer, the flow of the website, whatever it is, will the person be able to hear and see what the message is very quickly, because we don't have that much attention span. As much as you want to like, oh no, I'm much better than most people. Okay, most people have 3 seconds. I have 5. It's not that much, right? You got to catch it. And then we're also talking about focus in life. When you're very clear about your focus and what you're here to do, then everything else becomes easier, because it's no longer pushing hard and working hard.
Knowing where to focus, like on your website, is UX UI design, which is like user journey. How the user travels through your site to find out what they want. Like, I want to sign up for, the Rebbetzin workshop. So where do I find it? Is it something I can find on the homepage, or I have to click 3 different pages to find the workshop page to sign up? So if I have to click the 3 different pages in 3 seconds, I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to not sign up for the workshop. So it also creates the confidence in a person. like knowing that their website reflects who they are, knowing that it points out the pain points and the problems and solves them for the person who's visiting the site, then it talks to that person and it keeps them there with the focus that they need to stay on the page. So it's catching them in those like 10 sentences, saying the right things.
Yeah, totally. So powerful.
That's why clarity matters so much. That's why understanding what, like, okay, now I know why I'm here. I want to be a social worker. Okay, well, why? Because I want to help people. What's the problem you're solving? What's the solution for those things? And then knowing how to translate that to put it on a website. That's a skill. Knowing one thing is that what you want to do, but having someone be able to take that and then put it on the site in a visual way is a superpower. That's
Right.
what I specialize in.
Yeah. And I think it's even more than that. It's all the other social workers or all the other whatevers you do. What makes you different? You know, what is the thing only you can do? And it really is so powerful when somebody on the outside who's an expert like you can help you communicate that. Because to you, you know, it's like every coach in this planet, like, I help you transform your life, you know? And it's like, it's so cute, but I also have no idea what you're saying because it is so fuzzy and so just like, what does that even mean? But then you have a coach who says, I'm going to help you make bedtime fun. And then there's another coach who's, you know, comes and says, I'm going to help you, whatever it is, right? Take more time for yourself and really figure out what you need in order to function better. And every coach is coming and saying what they care about. Then we're starting to really get that focus, get that clarity.
So there's two parts: the person asking themselves deep inside for the answers, and then now what do I do with them once I found them?
Right.
Okay, so great. Now you found them, and it helps to contact someone like me who knows, okay, now we're going to translate that into something you can see. You can't
Yes.
just throw, 300 words on your homepage and it looks like a Google Doc and say, here, I have a website, which I have, sometimes happens. Like, I have a website. I'm like, no, you have a page with an image on the top that doesn't look so clear, and then words. That's not a website. Like if you have proper, like SEO and people want to find you, that's one thing, but they're not going to stay there because they don't know how to maneuver through the site. And that's when the visual stuff comes in, and knowing what to use and buttons and icons and all these things to make people travel through the site in a way that's easy for them to read and understand. That's UX UI. That's something that took like over a decade to learn. That's not something you can sit down and work on your Wix website by yourself. Some of the stuff you can do, and some of the stuff you just need help.
Right. Yeah. I highly recommend you get the professional help you need. Yeah.
That's why she put me on this earth, to help people with that specific thing. I'm not ashamed to say it because that's literally why I'm here. I wasn't skilled until age 18, and then I became skilled, and I have those skills to use them.
Right. And I don't think you invented skills at age 18. It all just culminated when you realized, oh, this is what it is. But you have this intuition and this ability to ask the right questions and the ability to help take that out of someone. I think a lot of times people have these like deep questions and they're having a hard time asking themselves. But when they could bounce it with somebody, then it really comes out better. In my a while ago, my daughter interviewed me, and it was a very cute interview. And because of the questions she was asking, I had to almost like reintroduce myself to my daughter, because she was asking me things about purpose and about, my business and what do I actually do? And do I feel like I'm living my purpose? And like big questions. And wow, I suddenly heard myself speak, and I had all these aha moments. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. You should put this out somewhere. Like, this is a really good interview, because it really matters who's asking you the questions. Like, you could be super clear. I am very clear about what I do. I'm a marriage coach for women in business. I only work with the wife because you are the center, you are the core, you are going to be the one to completely change your marriage, and you are in charge of your happiness. So if you can take that back and own it, then you can be happy. So I know what I do, but then being asked from these like different angles, it was so fun.
The question is, what do you do with it? Now that you have it, It's all in your hands. Like, what do you do with it?
Right.
So then if you would come to someone like me, then I would say, let's make it into social media content. Let's put it on the homepage of your website. Let's make it into a lead magnet. Let's put it in your email newsletter. I can help you organize and figure out how that shows up visually. But you also have to be vulnerable enough to answer the questions.
Right.
Like, you have to step up and say, actually, I'll answer that question, but it makes me uncomfortable, but I'll answer it anyways.
Yes. The first time we did the 7 whys exercise, I don't know if you know this exercise, but you ask why 7 times. So like,
Oh,
what do you
yes.
do? I'm a marriage coach.
Mhm.
Why? Because I want to help women in their marriage. Why? Because, marriage is the core of your family. And if your marriage is working, then your children are happy and, blah, blah, blah. And then why? And at the end, the 7th why was because I want to bring God's presence home. But it was so hard to say and it was so scary. I was shaking. I felt my entire body like vibrating from the thought of communicating something so internal and so deep. I was afraid because people would make fun of me that I'm so like old souled, and people would say, "Oh, you're so like so obsessed with God. Like, what is wrong with you?" Like, I don't know, all these like things that felt negative and judgy growing up and just, being who I am. It was so scary. And now I could just be like, okay, guys, I'm bringing God's presence home to, you, home to your home, and then home to its home. Like, I am so in alignment in the big picture, small picture thing. Oh, it's so fun to say now, but it was so scary to say when it was first discovered.
You have to be willing to go there. That's why I love working with people who are like in therapy or education, or people who have meaningful work that they do to change the world, because usually those people have asked some of those questions. They might not know all of those questions,
Right.
but they're like, how can I change this world? They've already asked that question. That's a big one. So the amount of vulnerability you need to show up to that is, you need it to be with a safe person. That's why
Yeah.
I say I should have been a social worker, because when you go to a social worker and you know that what you're going to say, they're not going to judge you, and it's going to land in a nice, safe place. And I hope and I want to be that person for businesses to ask those questions and to be like, okay, I hear you. There's nothing you can say to me that would shock me about your business. Just
Yeah.
go there. You want to sell, fishing rods and, Tiberia, and that's your dream in life. Okay, so what's holding you back? Let's do it. You have $1 million. So what do you need?
Right.
And people they come up with the craziest things. Like, I want to be a pilot. Okay. So do you think anyone else has that dream? Because people don't walk around, I want to be a pilot. If you have that dream, Hashem put it in you for a reason. Do something about it. Don't ignore it.
Yeah.
Your soul's
Yeah.
screaming to do something about it. Don't ignore it. It'll be upset. It'll kick back. Your soul will kick back.
It also never goes away. You have a calling, it will tag at you and pull at you and show up in your face and come around the other way. It will not go away because that is your purpose. That is what's calling you. And it's bigger than you. The people are afraid because it's so scary. Yeah, it's big. It's big. You are stepping into something that is bigger than you, which means that you're going to have to expand, and it means that you're going to have to, reinvent and maybe refresh and maybe recharge and maybe, allow and learn to receive. There's going to be a lot of stretching, but not hurting, right? Like, the difference between stretch and too much. I don't want you to think this is going to be hard. I want you to just realize it's going to take stretching. And those are very different things.
I once had someone who like wanted to be, let's say, the mayor. Okay. But she was selling Etsy art supplies on the internet. I'm like, well, if you want to be the mayor, then why are you selling Etsy art supplies? Like as a business coach would ask those kinds of questions, like, they're not related to each other. If that's really your dream, if you really sit back and look at your soul and say, I want to be mayor, then go ahead and make those steps to be mayor, because otherwise you're just distracting yourself with what you want to do in this world in the first place. And that's just a sad, lonely place to be.
Right. Well, I know people who, there's 2 directions this is going in my head. I had a client who did something very technical, and it had nothing to do with changing the world. And she had a very hard time branding herself and really expressing what she does, because what do I even do? I help you do something very technical. It has nothing to do with changing the world. So it took her a while to really own that people can't change the world without the technical. There is something very practical here that has to happen for people to be able to do the things they're doing. And without you, they wouldn't be able to do it. So I feel like, you could say the same thing about design, but you're actually really connected and really aligned. So it doesn't feel like you're having that issue.
Well, I just want to clarify. I wouldn't tell someone who has a 9 to 5 job and starts their own, let's say they want to sell art supplies on Etsy. Okay. So that's their dream in this case. So I wouldn't say quit your 9 to 5 job. I would say continue doing your Etsy store on the side. I'm not putting it down for anyone else who has a 9 to 5 job who needs to do the things they don't love on a daily basis. But that might not be what fuels them to wake up in the morning.
Right.
That's just what they do to pay bills. So I would still say find something that fuels you to wake up in the morning, because it's just a sad place to be if you're not doing something that you feel like changes the world or you feel good about.
In my mind, it's like, because you're here to wake up in the morning. That's why you're here.
But guess what? How do you function the whole day if you're miserable in what you do? Like, there's a lot of antidepressants and people who do all kinds of drugs and not to talk about a specific state or place, but there are people who are on different substances to get them through the day because they're not enjoying their daily life. I don't think that's what life should be about. I don't think a whole country should be on antidepressants because they don't want to wake up in the morning. I think they should ask the questions about why they want to wake up in the morning.
Right.
Not to put down antidepressants. There's purpose and place for everything. But if you're not happy in life, ask the questions. Maybe it's because you're not doing something that you love in life.
Right.
And having someone
someone
there to hear those answers, to support you in those answers, even if it's just a friend.
Yeah. The biggest antidepressant is asking about the purpose in life and what are you actually doing to let you up. It's so crazy, but it really asking yourself, what if I had $17 million? What would I do? Okay, fine. So I'll get a house. Okay, fine. So I'll furnish the house. Okay, fine. So I'll even get a designer to tell me which colors to paint the house. But then what? What would you do with the rest of the money? Right. And it pushes you to get really clear on which charities you would give money to. It gets you really clear about what your day would look like, what things you would be doing. And then from that, all you have to do is pick one thing that you would actually be changing about your life. You would do differently and go from there. It's really powerful.
There's no amount of money I would have in the world that would change what I do. If I had $3 million tomorrow, that'd be nice. I would not change it. Because if God put me in this world to do this, then having all the money and sitting on my couch does not make me feel better.
Right.
It might change the people that I work with or the clients that I work with or the amount of clients. Maybe I'll take on a client a year. Who knows? But it wouldn't change what I do. Because I feel like that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
You agree, right?
Totally. I was just thinking while you were asking in the beginning of this call, you're like, what if you had $1 million? I'm like, what if I had $1 million? I would still do this private coaching. I would do it the same exact way because I dialed it in so much, 3 months, because I see over and over again, even when I had 1 year long programs, at the 3-month mark, the husband would join. There was something magical that would happen. And then it was boom, 3 months. It's just that's the time. There was always oh, okay, now I get it. And so when it was a year-long program, there was phases. First 3 months and the second 3 months, they were different. The focus was different. And of course, you can continue working with me longer. I'd love that. Makes my day. But I can very, very confidently know that in 3 months, the entire situation is going to be on its head.
Would you have more retreats, for example, if you had more
money?
If
I had millions? Yeah.
Is there something that you would adjust? Because just asking that question, I would have more retreats. So why can't I have more retreats now? Just hypothetically.
I the last retreat I had, my youngest one was 1.5 years. and I left him for 2 nights. It was 2 nights, 3 days. And I left him with my husband and the other kids, whatever. Everybody was, I left them all and went away for a retreat of 3 days with a, I think it was a year and 2 months or something. And then people asked me, can we do another retreat? But at that point I already had a baby. So my baby turned a year. And so now I feel like, in a couple of months, I could definitely see myself doing a retreat again because it was that powerful. It was like so fun. First of all, to be in the same room with people and actually be able to do stuff and hug and do art and, have fun. And we went to the beach. Like, we had so much fun.
I always say that one of my superpowers is networking. I love being in a room full of people. I go to as many networking events as I possibly can. It also tells people about what I do when I'm at these networking things. But to all those moms out there who are like, you just had a baby, but I haven't had a baby in years.
Right.
And for all those people who are at a different stage in life, like when you stop having kids who are 1 year old, it changes your entire perspective. And sometimes that's the best time to say, okay, where am I rebranding? Where am I recharging my business? Because I'm not the same person. I don't have little gone age kids anymore. What does my business look like now? Who am I serving now? Who do I want to be? Who can I this is the best thing. Who can I imagine myself being so that I can become that person that I want to be?
That's so interesting. I love that.
So let's say
it's
the $1 million person. So let's say, okay, if I want to be the $1 million person, how do I become that woman? What does a woman who makes $1 million look like? How does her business run? What systems does she have? Who works for her? How many people work for her? Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, we could sit here and talk all day because you're so awesome and I love talking to you. And you were talking before about the safety and the safety that you create. And I think that is very true. And I wanted to just reflect that to you. That is definitely one of your superpowers, is creating that safe space for any conversation to happen. And you are in such a good place when that conversation is happening that you co-regulate the other person. You almost like bring them up with you. So I highly recommend, if anybody has a chance to talk to Estee, please do, because she's awesome. And tell everybody how they can get into your world, give you money, work with you.
Okay, well, I have a website, right? So EsteeDesigns.com. And on there you can schedule a discovery call, which is a free discovery call. You can schedule a design audit, which is an hour and a half of paid time. You can download my PDF about how to recharge your business, which is a lot about what we talked about today. So you can find that all there.
That's amazing. And how do you spell Estee?
Like on the screen, ESTEE Designs, DESIGNS.com.
Amazing. Thank you. Not everybody is looking at the screen. That's why I made you say it.
Right.
I really appreciate it. Oh, look at this. We got a last minute comment. Paula, hi Paula, says, I love this discussion. Who do I want to be? I worked blindly building both family and business, and I'm a bit of a different place, more towards the end of my career and looking to transition to the next phase, but would love to know if you do organize a retreat. Oh, yes. I would love to have you on my retreat. I do. I will. I'm excited about it. I'm like dreaming it up now and thinking all the big things. So yes, thank you. I will keep you updated. I'll keep you all updated. Thank you so much, Estee. Thank you for being here.
It was my pleasure. Always nice talking to you, as you know.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners. Thank you to all the people who came live. I just want to tell you that was so much fun. It hasn't happened for a while now that so many people gathered together to leave comments and really follow us here. So thank you for that. And thank you to the listeners listening, right now in their ears, in their screens. Make sure you come back next week for another amazing episode. And don't forget to be connected for real.